Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are we in the getting it done with gratitude world? This is Karen Williams Thompson, and I am with my friend and partner, co host, Shellyanne Edwards Barron. And we are talking to you about getting all things done with gratitude. We got on this journey because we really, really wanted to hold ourselves accountable. And we have learned so much along the way. We have definitely learned resilience. We have learned how to pivot. We have learned how to be grateful when everything looks as if it's tumbling upside down. And we just want to get on live and share our gold nuggets with you. So we too have been learning. And we really hope that you have been enjoying each and every episode that you are remembering. You can follow us on YouTube, and you can also check out our pages here on LinkedIn. So who is Karen? Well, for those of you who are new to us, I am a life and business strategist, and I help women say yes. I help women to stop settling. I help them to get absolutely clear on what it is they truly, truly want. What is that purpose? What is that calling upon their heart? What's holding them back? And we get to peel away those layers so that it's no longer getting in their way. And it allows them to create that masterful plan so that they can step into their next level with confidence, with courage, but also successfully achieving the goals that they have set for themselves. And one of the best ways we have learned to do this is by doing it with gratitude for everything that comes up. Because being an entrepreneur, setting a goal, following a vision or a dream is never easy. But with gratitude, we know we can get it done. And to share more about getting it done with gratitude, Shelley, I hand it over to you.
Hi, good morning. So let me first apologize for my voice. I hope you're hearing me clearly. It's a bit heavy. Um, good morning to those of you who are joining us. We have Dr. Marcia Thomas Powell. Hi, thank you for taking the time. And Marsha, hi, Marsha. Thank you for joining us this morning. And as Karen was saying, getting it done with gratitude actually starts with gratitude. And what I am a gratitude guide and habit coach. And what that means is that I work with my clients to help them develop that number one habit, which is the habit of gratitude, as well as other habits that help them get their goals accomplished. Now, no matter what you do or how many goals you set, if you don't develop the effective habits that get you step by step toward achieving your goal, chances are life happens and we get derailed, we get thrown off course. Gratitude helps us dust off, get back up, and resume the program, and getting into those little habits that keep us there really help us accomplish our goals. So I'm really excited the series that we're on right now, because so far we've been talking about barriers to gratitude. I know there are a number of people who think gratitude is, one of those I guess fairy tale things, and it is something that makes us hide from the world and hide from the reality. But gratitude actually helps us see reality for what it is and still appreciate it. And one of the things that I think so far we've been speaking about impatience and how impatience really interrupts gratitude.
Yes.
We
Mm-hmm,
spoke
mm-hmm.
about expectations, how expectations interrupt gratitude. And if you haven't seen those episodes, please, you can check back on our profiles at LinkedIn or check the Getting It Done with Gratitude page on YouTube. And please subscribe so you don't miss any following episodes. And today we're going to be talking about scarcity and that feeling of lack. Now, Karen, when you think of scarcity and that feeling of lack, what comes to mind?
Well, what comes to mind for me, Shelley, is when that voice would come up and say, I'm not enough for something. So there were times in my and I don't think I recognized it as having a scarcity mindset then. I think I was telling myself back then that, oh, I was being practical. How can you go
Yeah.
to, for example, you're a newly divorced woman, you want to buy a home, and they're asking you all these questions at the financial institute, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, maybe I can't do this after all. So it was like staying in that place of scarcity, of not thinking that I could. And scarcity has, so things like that are what comes up for me with scarcity. And I really had to work on that, with my coach as I went on my personal growth development journey. That's something that I have worked on, and that I imagine that I'll always work on, because at the least expected times, or the times that you would like it the least, poof, that little doubt pops up, that little comes up to say, can you really get this done? Are you good enough for this? So that's kind of what came up for me when you mentioned it. I'm sure there are others, but that's what came up there.
Yeah, what when when I thought about it, I thought about something similar, not being enough, and
Hmm.
what I took it just a little bit differently in the sense of believing that there isn't enough. So that there's not enough for me. And
Mm,
so I'm not going to get any because there's not enough for me. If, other people have, then they have, I don't have, and I can't get any because there isn't any more. There is none available. And when it comes to that scarcity mindset, it's really about thinking that resources are limited and that if other people have, we're not going to get. And it puts us in a position to feel like if we have to compete for everything. And so if we want to, let's say, do a podcast or do these videos that we're doing, we have to, take somebody else's audience. If we're writing a book and we want to get our book sold, we have to, if somebody buys my book, they're not going to buy somebody else's book. If they buy somebody else's book, they're not going to buy mine. So we have this, and it's very subtle, like you said, we don't think about it as scarcity, and it comes up over and over. And think about it like if you're at a job and you're thinking that, okay, there's only one promotion
mm,
available. So if this person gets it, I don't get it, and that means that there isn't enough for everybody. But there would be opportunities for promotions at different times. So, excuse me.
mm-hmm.
So the scarcity mindset is kind of connected with what we were talking about before, expectations and impatience. So
Yes,
that we
yeah.
feel like if we don't get it now, then we're not going to get it because there isn't enough. So it's all really, really connected.
And part of that too is also driven by what you were starting to mention when you talked about compete. And what came to mind for me was comparison. A lot of times we compare ourselves to others. So we compare ourselves to where we are on our journey and to where somebody else is. And we tell ourselves things like, oh, I should be further along and I should have done this, and the shoulda, woulda, couldas all start to manifest themselves. But the truth is that what we should be doing is really just comparing where we were yesterday to where we are today, and we will see that we have made a step forward. And in that space, to express gratitude for that growth, because that gratitude is then going to build the momentum to take us to the next step and the next step and the next step. So when we get into this whole, competitive thing and comparison thing, they have, so I need, and it really diminishes gratitude in that moment, in that space. And so what we really need to be doing is, when we catch ourselves going there, we need to pivot, we need to make a change to what we're saying and to the words and the language that we are using, to ourselves. Because the truth is this: the person that we talk to the most is ourselves. And I
Yeah,
always say, talk to yourself gently. Talk to
yeah.
yourself like you would talk to that person that you love the most in the whole wide world. Talk to yourself like that. And you're going to see the difference that it makes. So the Scarcity is really then fed by those other things like feeling competitive, feeling that you need to compete with something telling
Hmm.
you that, or with comparing yourself to where everyone else is on their journey. Because also, we don't know how much persons did to get to where they are. You know, we're seeing what is now being revealed and what is now being shown, but we don't know that they may have been working on that for the last 5 years, the last 7 years.
Yeah. Yep.
We have no idea. So we need to be grateful for where we are and keep moving forward on our journey.
Yes, exactly. And this idea of there not being enough, really, it gets to the core of us, so that when we approach things, and like I said, it's really sneaky, and we don't see it as those things of being like this scarcity mindset, and it stops us from collaborating with others, because we think if we work with them, they're going to get, and then we're not going to get. It stops us from making the changes that we would like to make, because we feel like change would take us away from what we want to get. And so the scarcity mindset fixates on what we don't have. And when we fixate on what we don't have, then we are going to always see the absence of things, and that is going to keep us stuck, because then we're constantly thinking about what is missing. Gratitude combats that, because gratitude helps us look at what exists, what is
What's
actually there. Yeah.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned, about changing our language, one of the things with the gratitude strategy, the starting point actually of the gratitude strategy, is saying it right. And what I've noticed sometimes when some people express gratitude, they make statements like, I'm grateful that I'm no longer doing this, or I'm grateful that I don't have. And so the statement of the gratitude
Excuse me.
is actually phrased in a negative way,
Mm,
because that is fixating on the scarcity. What we need to do is to change the language and phrase it in a more positive way. So I am grateful for where I am now, not that I'm grateful I'm no longer where I used to be. Because we're not focusing, sorry, on where we used to be. We really
right.
need to focus on where we are now. So
Oh,
instead of
oh,
saying, I'm grateful that I'm no longer there, because I'm not supposed to be thinking about there, I'm supposed to be thinking about here, what I have and where I am, the statement would be, I am grateful for where I am. And instead of saying, I am grateful that I don't have this, phrase it in a positive way. I am grateful that I have. And you replace, you put that positive focus on what exists. So even in something like that, feeling scarcity, feeling that we lack, feeling like something is missing in our lives, that makes a difference in the way we talk to ourselves and the language
mm,
that we use as
mhm.
we express gratitude. So there's a lot to be said about saying, using the right words, using the right language. And as you said, we really do need to speak to ourselves with kindness, because that's the voice that's running constantly in our minds.
So true. So, so very, very true. And often we are our harshest critic. You know, we say, you should have done this by now. Why haven't you done this by now? You should have this. And we really can beat ourselves up in a big way.
Yeah.
And I don't think we think about what it's really doing to us and how it's impacting our mindset. And not only that, but even extending to our mental well-being, because they're all so connected. And gratitude is so powerful because it helps us to anchor in the present. It helps
Hmm.
us to be present to what is happening now. And when you're focusing on what is happening now, then you are not with the same intensity looking back to see where you were or what happened back there. I mean, even when you think about driving your vehicle, you don't drive looking in your rearview mirror. You drive looking ahead to where you are going and your destination.
Yeah.
You only look in your rearview mirror when you need to, when you may be
Hmm.
reversing or something, but you really do not spend the majority of your time, at least I pray not, looking looking back. You are looking at where you are going. And this is what gratitude does. Gratitude helps us to look at where we are, to be present to where we are, to be present to what is happening, and to then say that the right way, and then to keep saying it in the right way. And then that
Hmm.
allows us to build the momentum to keep doing it always. And this is how the gratitude principles are built into your life. It sounds like, oh my goodness, they're talking about these principles and they have this to do and that to do, but it is really a lot simpler than that. It's
Hmm.
all about talking to yourself with love first, starting today, doing it tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. And before you know it, you have already incorporated two of the key principles into your life, saying it right and saying it always.
Yeah.
Even just like that. And you didn't have to really change anything in your life. It starts with you, and it starts with how you are thinking about yourself and what you are saying to yourself. So that then the third principle, saying it loud, becomes easier for you, because as you are saying it with the love and as you're saying it always, then you feel, oh my gosh, I want to shout this out. I want to let the world, I want everybody to know about this. So I'm bringing it on. And that is what we are promising you, is getting it done with gratitude. It's not magic, and it does take some work, but it is a habit that you can build, and it's something that you can do for you. Why? You deserve it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you mentioned this, focusing on making statements like "I should have been" and "I should have gotten things done," all of that is part of scarcity, because we put ourselves in a position. Again, we're looking at what is missing. So instead of celebrating where we are and how far we've come, we're looking at what's missing, what we didn't get done. And then what that leads to sometimes is that we think sometimes that we can't get it done. I'm sure you've heard people say, I can't do that, I'm too old for that, or
All the time
i
with the goals. Yep.
I already passed that time. And and what that does is that it creates limitations in our minds, and those limitations keep us where we are, unhappy, stuck, existing,
Unfulfilled.
yeah, and unfulfilled, instead of thriving and becoming and developing. And as you're saying, that habit of gratitude where you're looking at what exists, the opposite of scarcity would be abundance. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you start looking at the abundance and what actually exists instead of what is missing, then you start to feel happy and feel joyful, because you have these things. You get to do these things. And so part of changing the language as well, in addition to focusing on what exists and what you have, part of changing the language is shifting from "I have to do this" to "I get to do this." And that changes the attitude from making things feel like they're draining you to looking at what you get to do and how you get to spend your life, and how you get to become and how you get to grow and develop and all those things. It turns everything into an opportunity.
It really, really does. It truly, truly does. And it's about grasping those opportunities, isn't it? It's about, and sometimes, you talked about getting stuck just now, and people and telling yourself that it's too late. And it just took me back to all the conversations that I have been having and that I have with women all over the world. And they have these dreams, they have these aspirations that they want, But those are the things that they're telling themselves. They're saying, Karen, I think it's too late for me now. I think I've missed that bus. Who's going to take on somebody now, like at me, at my age, that boat has sailed. They say, oh, they don't have, they're so caught up in the scarcity of what they believe that they don't have, that they are unable to see all of the potential and all of the possibilities of what they do have.
Yeah.
And this is where, this is why building habits, but even before you build a habit, this is why it's so important to have the awareness, have the understanding of what's creating those blocks. Because 9.5 times out of 10, it are the stories that we're telling ourselves or
Ah,
the things
yes.
that we've heard people say. And we then hold on to those stories and we make them the truth and we make them the reality. We make them the gospel. And then we make all of our decisions in life based on this false reality. And this is where we get all caught up in scarcity,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
we then have held on so tightly to this. And so it's really very important for us to learn how to let go of those limiting beliefs and to see them as
Yeah.
what they are, not the truth. There is
Mhm.
nothing that you can dream of for yourself that you cannot actually have or achieve.
Mhm. And
If
as
it
you're
was
saying
not for
that,
you, yeah,
mhm.
sorry. No, I was just going to say, if it was not for you, it would not have come to you. Your dream came to you because it is for you. Other than
Mhm.
that, it would have gone to somebody else. Shelly didn't have my dreams and I didn't have hers. And it's the same for everyone else out there. And this is why it's so important to be grateful, as you said, for where we are right here today and now.
Yeah.
And to use that to take us to the next step. Sorry about that, Shelly.
Yeah, no, 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 that's fine. That's fine because that's an important point to reinforce. And what I was going to say had to do with getting unstuck. And I mean, even when we recognize the limitations, when we see them, sometimes um, they're overwhelming
Mm,
because we think, okay, this is the story that I'm telling myself. This is where that story came from. This is what the story is, and we again focusing on the story that's limiting us. But gratitude is the number one way to get ourselves out of that. And
yeah,
gratitude is the number one way to interrupt those stories and say, whoops, hold up. Yeah, stop right there. This is what I have. This is what I get to do. And
yeah.
I'm good with that. So it really is a point of counteracting and interrupting the voice that has that negativity in it. And it's going to take some time to really replace the negative voice, especially if we're starting now, with decades of practice with this negative voice. It's going to take some time. And here we go back with the impatience and the expectations, but it's possible. And all that is necessary is when the negativity comes up, you are aware of it. And I'm so glad you mentioned being aware because we do have to be aware of the voices and the negativity. So when the negative voice comes up, we have to counteract it and replace it. So if the negative voice comes up and says, "Ah, you're too old for that. Nobody
Yeah.
want," and so the positive voice would interrupt and say, "I'm at this age, and that means I have all this experience to share. So it's a good thing I'm doing it now." And I remember, um, I think I had mentioned this some time ago in one of the other lives, but it's so applicable here. When um when my sister-in-law graduated with her
Mhm,
degree, she
mhm.
was saying, I'm already this age and I have grown children and all these things. What is an undergraduate degree? What can I do now? And in conversation with her, we realized that with her experience and with the wealth of knowledge that she has now, with the training of the degree, she's going to be a force to reckon with. And had she pushed through and done it immediately straight out of high school, she wouldn't have had all that weight and experience behind it. So that now when she speaks to someone, she's not only speaking from, the theoretical knowledge with with the concepts and all those things. She's speaking in a very practical way because she has the life experiences to share. And that makes it even more powerful. And I love what Marsha says. Gratitude is the gateway to miracles. That should be on a t-shirt. Yes, yes, yes. That should
Absolutely.
be on a t-shirt.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so, I don't know, it just seems so. What came to mind there was mind-boggling, but I don't know if that's language that you hear on LinkedIn. I was hesitating there to say that. But it is just how we can get in our way, and how things how things like this, how scarcity can take a grip and plant roots,
Mm,
and then we really have to work at pulling those roots up and out. So that's why awareness is so important to me, because you can't do anything about it until you know it is there, until you acknowledge it is there, and until you accept some responsibility and decide to take action. I'm all about my A's. So to me, you have to really just be in that place and really really want to do this, because it really sets you on a different trajectory. It just takes you in a
yeah, it
different
does.
direction.
It does. I mean, implementing gratitude literally changed my life. It changed my scarcity mindset. It changed my focus on expectations. It
Mm-hmm.
changed my belief that um, you know, all the bad things are my fault, but the good things had nothing to do with me. It changed my attitude toward life because I say a lot, we need to move away from saying I have to and embrace saying I get to. Because just that single change, because that's where I started. I started with looking at what I have as opposed to what I didn't have. And then from there, I went on to looking at what I get to do and making that shift from feeling overwhelmed. And just by
Mm-hmm.
changing that language, I moved from feeling overwhelmed to being excited about the things that I have access to and all the opportunities that I have access to. And when people say, do the things that you love, do the things that you enjoy, sometimes even those things that you enjoy become an issue if it is that you don't interrupt it with the gratitude, and you don't you think about it as things that you have to do, and you lose your joy when you fixate on, oh, I have to do this, and you
Mm.
regain the joy when you get to think about, I get to do this, I could do something else. And it's very, very empowering when you realize it's your choice.
Yes, choice.
And accepting
Choice is power.
responsibility, yeah, accepting responsibility is not about taking blame. Accepting responsibility is about empowering yourself to be able to do the things that you want to do and to make the changes that you want to make. Because when you say, I get to choose,
Excuse me.
then you choose and you get to choose. And I feel like that's a big thing. That's really what made the biggest difference for me.
Yeah, and I think that really this is like a point in this discussion where we know that we could just keep going, but because of time, we know that we're going to have to wrap here. Because would you believe we've already been here 30 minutes? Could you believe that?
Yeah.
But before we
No.
go this morning, I really want to challenge everyone who hears our voice, who watches these videos, and we really, really appreciate it, as Sharon said earlier. But we really want to challenge you to look at where scarcity may be showing up in your life. Take the responsibility, not blame, and take the action. Do
Yeah.
something about it. Speak to yourself with love. Speak to yourself with kindness and gentleness and graciousness.
Hmm.
Stay present to what you have, but share with us how these experiences are coming up for you. Share with us how scarcity may have been impacting your life, and what are some of the things you now realize, oh, I can do it, I can say it differently, and I can actually
Hmm.
show up differently in our life. We really want to know that everything that we share is making a difference and that you are getting the gold nuggets, and we can help you or just share our knowledge and our passion with you, and really hope that that in itself makes a difference for someone who needs that encouragement, for someone who just needs to know it really is possible. So, Shelley, I leave you
Yeah.
to wrap us up.
Well, to close, what I'd like to say is use gratitude to help you enjoy the things that you have. Look around you, appreciate where you are because you didn't have to be here. You may not be where you want to be, but you're
Yeah,
not where you used to be. And
so
appreciate that
true.
and enjoy that. So that's what I wanted to leave everyone with. And remember, you can get it done with gratitude. Have a wonderful rest of today and see you next week, Thursday. Bye bye.